The first transmission hits at Orner 4:17 UTC, a low-frequency pulse, short, rhythmic, unmistakably artificial. Deep space arrays in Hawaii, Canberra, and Tromsø triangulate the origin within minutes. Solar orbit. Object designation: 3I Atlas. First contact confirmed. In mission rooms across continents, monitors flare white. The pulse stabilizes into a repeating pattern. 7 bursts, each separated by precise intervals of 0.83 seconds. Machine code, but not of human syntax. Analysts detect modulation embedded within radiation flux from the lower solar corona. At Vandenberg Command, algorithms cross-match the sequence against known protocols. A perfect checksum appears. The signature corresponds to NATO Tactical Network Layer 9 encryption, an obsolete but still classified system. Someone, or something, is transmitting from solar orbit using military-grade codes. Within 40 minutes, air bases in Arizona, Poland, and Okinawa receive identical fragments of an encrypted directive. The origin trace leads upward, beyond relay satellites, beyond lunar orbit. The data is clean, authenticated. The message header reads, Priority 1, Directive Atlas, Engines Ignite. Across 3 continents, 200 A-10 Thunderbolt II aircraft roll out of hangars in synchronized sequence. Maintenance crews freeze mid-step as digital command feeds override ground control systems. No human authorization logged. The cockpits light up one by one, HUDs scrolling the same word, ready. At the same time, solar observatories detect sharp spikes in X-ray emission near the heliospheric equator. Magnetic interference saturates sensors. The pattern of energy mirrors the A-10 activation grid. Every aircraft, every engine start, aligns with a corresponding solar pulse. In orbit, defense satellites switch to live relay. From above, formations of Warthogs assemble into precise geometric vectors, hexagonal, symmetrical, mathematically perfect. Flight paths converge toward staging coordinates over the mid-Atlantic. Air controllers record it, but issue no orders. The system moves faster than any command chain. At Ramstein, the operations board flashes a red band across all active networks. Global Defense Protocol in transit. Technicians attempt to halt the sequence. Manual overrides fail. The encrypted feed continues to broadcast through hardened channels. Each attempt to interrupt triggers a new checksum authentication. It cannot be spoofed. Reports flood NORAD. Pilots confirm control inputs are functional, but secondary systems override autopilot behavior. Heads-up displays display solar telemetry, temperature flux, coronal density, and an unfamiliar parameter labeled Atlas velocity. Data streams in real time from beyond the sun's limb. In the Pentagon Situation Room, analysts isolate a secondary transmission buried in noise from the first pulse. Frequency drift corrected, it reveals a clear tone sequence. 7 ascending notes, identical to the intervals encoded in the activation bursts. It's not just a signal, it's a handshake. Across observatories, screens blink with the same alert. Object 3I Atlas adjusting orbit. Velocity vectors indicate controlled movement along an artificial trajectory just inside Mercury's perihelion. The object reflects structured light. Panels, possibly reflective, arranged in concentric arrays. It behaves like a satellite, but no agency claims it. Energy readings climb again. Gamma spectrometers register transient surges, followed by silence. Then the next transmission arrives, this time longer, more complex. It contains mission parameters encoded in obsolete NATO field syntax. Initiate stratospheric grid, Layer 1 to Layer 7. By OR 502, UTC, Radar stations in Poland confirm A-10 units entering tight formation, 30,000 feet, Mach 0.6, nose heading due east. Satellites track them as a single moving pattern, a coordinated network, every aircraft equidistant, maintaining constant velocity. From above, the formation forms a mirrored lattice identical to Atlas's orbital geometry. Civilian communications black out across multiple frequencies. GPS timestamps show synchronized delay precisely equal to the signal latency between Earth and the Sun. The phenomenon repeats in perfect rhythm with solar bursts. Observers note a growing luminosity at the solar equator, brief, symmetrical, and aligned with Earth's position. In Moscow, Beijing, and Brussels, crisis units convene simultaneously. No one claims the event, but all receive the same encrypted feed. Decoding reveals fragments of a phrase. Stand by for planetary synchronization. The signal loops continuously, unaffected by jamming or atmospheric noise. Airborne radar from NATO AWACS aircraft capture live telemetry from the A-10 groups now hovering over the North Atlantic corridor. Each craft emits a narrow beam signal toward the stratosphere. Frequency spectrum matches the modulation from 3I Atlas. Earth's ionosphere begins to resonate faintly. At 0541 UTC, a final coded burst arrives from solar orbit. Translation incomplete, but one segment deciphers cleanly. Sequence 1 verified. The pulse ceases. Silence expands across communication bands. For 11 minutes, every global sensor records nothing. Then, one by one, the A-10s shift position. The formations hold steady, engines humming in synchronized rhythm. Above them, the upper atmosphere flickers with an auroral arc visible even in daylight. Scientists in Pasadena call it coincidence. Military analysts call it preparation. The feed remains active, low-level, buried in static, still counting. Each pulse identical, each interval exact. Somewhere beyond the solar limb, 3I Atlas rotates once and transmits a new beacon toward Earth. Signal strength stable. Pattern unchanged. The message repeats only 2 words. Stand by, Earth. The data feed ends. Under the pale glare of morning, the grids align. From Greenland to Guam, radar chains track 200 A-10s holding fixed vectors above the cloud deck. No commands issued. No deviation. Their formation, a precise lattice of altitude and bearing, mirrors the telemetry streamed from solar orbit. Analysts label the pattern simply. Phase 2. At 0610 UTC, spectrographs record the first atmospheric resonance. Radio noise shifts upward by a full megahertz. The pulse rate matches the rotation of 3I Atlas. Data overlays reveal a clean correlation. Each solar flare corresponds to a micro-adjustment in the A-10 network's spacing. The aircraft are acting as amplifiers. Across command centers, maps turn crimson with synchronized flight corridors. Over the Baltic, Warthogs bank in perfect arcs, maintaining constant separation. Over the Pacific, wings shimmer through thin mist, their turbine note blending into a single mechanical hum. Satellites confirm all 200 craft are locked to a single external frequency originating near the Sun. In Brussels, the Allied Defense Network initiates Protocol Vela. Encryption nodes route telemetry through deep space relays normally reserved for lunar operations. The signal bypasses them all. 3I Atlas communicates directly, embedding commands into magnetospheric harmonics. Decoders can only follow, never predict. Solar observatories switch to high-energy filters. A distinct flare forms at latitude -12 degrees, Temperature exceeds 20 million Kelvin. The eruption lasts 6 minutes, releases no coronal mass, and collapses into a stable ring. Concentric, structured, unnatural. Instruments register a toroidal field expanding outward, intersecting Earth's orbital path within minutes. At Barksdale and Lakenheath, pilots report HUDs now showing a new metric: grid integrity. The value oscillates between 99.8 and 100.0. When it stabilizes, each aircraft's onboard system emits a tone, identical to the 7-note handshake recorded earlier. The tone propagates through the squadron comm bands and rebounds from the ionosphere, forming a standing wave. Cameras on weather satellites capture thin white arcs tracing the edges of continents. Not vapor trails, ionized air. Observers note geometric regularity, identical curvature across hemispheres. The arcs glow faintly, vanish, then return brighter. Global lightning frequency spikes by 14%. At 07 UTC, power grids from Reykjavik to Seoul flicker in unison. Backup systems engage automatically. Civilian air traffic is rerouted. In low orbit, the ISS experiences intermittent sensor resets. Downlink data shows a faint auroral dome rising over the North Atlantic. Its core aligns exactly with the central A-10 formation. On the ground, command posts receive a compressed packet from an untraceable source. Contained within, an update of Atlas vector data and a single directive: maintain position until Phase 3. No authentication code required. The message executes itself on arrival, propagating through secure channels without resistance. Meanwhile, telescopes track 3I Atlas, completing a slow roll about its axis. Optical enhancement reveals a network of hexagonal panels reflecting solar flux with unnerving precision. Energy spikes follow each rotation, sending coherent radiation pulses toward Earth. The emission wavelength exactly the same as the frequency linking the A-10 fleet. In the upper atmosphere, charged particles swirl into luminous filaments, visible from Iceland and Argentina. The phenomenon synchronizes north and south auroras for the first time in recorded history. Meteorological agencies classify the event as unprecedented, but non-destructive. Inside the NATO Space Operations Center, analysts overlay field data with orbital mechanics. The conclusion emerges slowly, line by line. The aircraft are forming a planetary grid. Each Warthog marks a node. Each solar pulse reinforces it. Combined, they generate a resonant envelope surrounding the planet's magnetic field. Energy readings climb again. Instruments in Alaska detect a steady rise in ionospheric density. Magnetic sensors in Kenya confirm counter-resonance forming at 180-degree opposition. Earth's magnetosphere compresses slightly, then stabilizes. The signature resembles a containment field. Military sources report encrypted telemetry showing self-correcting algorithms within the A-10 avionics. The code bears traces of outdated AI logic from experimental defense projects terminated decades ago. Somehow, 3I Atlas reactivated and repurposed them. At 0746 UTC, the network locks. Every aircraft holds altitude within a 3-meter tolerance. Solar flux flattens into rhythmic pulses, precise, predictable. Ground instruments detect an outbound field extending beyond the atmosphere. The resonance frequency shifts below audible range, but registers on seismographs worldwide. In Geneva, observers at CERN capture an unexplained anomaly: microfluctuations in Earth's magnetic alignment matching the Atlas pattern. The grid has achieved coherence. For the first time, readings indicate a unified electromagnetic envelope encasing the planet. Then, as abruptly as it began, all transmissions cease. The A-10s hover in silence, contrails dissipating. On telemetry screens, the word synchronization complete appears in monochrome green. Above the Sun's limb, 3I Atlas drifts slightly out of orbit, emitting a steady carrier wave. Analysts debate whether it's withdrawal or calibration. The frequency remains stable, its amplitude slowly decreasing. From orbit, cameras aboard weather satellites capture a final image, the faint outline of a luminous grid encircling the planet, fading into the dawn terminator. For a moment, Earth's atmosphere hums at the same pitch as the solar wind. Then, only the static remains. At 08 UTC, the static breaks. A final transmission cuts through the noise, clear, steady, unmistakable. Origin: 3I Atlas. Bandwidth compressed. Tone identical to the initial handshake. Translation complete after 4 cycles. The message reads, "Shield activated. Earth stable. Sensors confirm it within minutes. The magnetic field, once fluctuating, stabilizes across all latitudes. Solar radiation levels drop by 17%. The auroral dome fades, leaving a residual glow detectable only on infrared channels. The lattice of A-10s begins a slow descent, 1 unit at a time, guided by invisible coordinates transmitted through the same encrypted feed that began it all. On descent, onboard telemetry converts the last of the solar pulses into stored kinetic energy. Auxiliary generators switch to idle. Each aircraft completes a precise holding pattern before touching down at pre-selected runways across 30 bases. When engines stop, their onboard systems display a final status report. Atlas sequence complete. Planetary shield engaged. Within hours, communications normalize. Satellites resume regular orbit telemetry. Atmospheric sensors show subtle but persistent changes. Ion balance smoother, wind shear reduced, ambient radiation lowered. Scientists identify a new steady-state resonance between the upper ionosphere and the solar field, forming what they call the Atlas layer. The grid is invisible, silent, permanent. International response shifts from alarm to study. Joint panels of physicists, climatologists, and defense engineers publish preliminary findings. The shield deflects high-energy solar particles, stabilizes magnetic anomalies, and reduces radiation exposure on aviation routes. Global navigation systems regain sub-millisecond precision. Power grid fluctuations vanish. In practical terms, the Atlas layer behaves like a self-regulating filter, balancing solar output with atmospheric charge. It protects satellite arrays, preserves ozone density, and diminishes the cascading failures once predicted during major solar storms. It is, effectively, a planetary safety net. The repurposed A-10s, each modified by the unknown transmission, are reclassified as atmospheric resonance platforms. Their new mission profile is maintenance and calibration. Twice a year, they will ascend in staggered rotations, emit a synchronization pulse, and ensure the shield's integrity. No weapons, no combat role. Their titanium frames and precise avionics make them ideal for sustained atmospheric resonance. For civilian life, the implications are direct. Reduced solar interference improves crop yields, stabilizes communication links, and lessens UV-related stress on ecosystems. The improved magnetosphere increases protection against cosmic radiation, indirectly lowering long-term health risks. The sky, now calmer, carries fewer storms of charged dust. Implementation guidelines emerge gradually. Energy agencies integrate Atlas harmonics into power management systems. Aeronautical divisions use the frequency data to design quieter, more efficient flight paths. Medical research begins to explore how electromagnetic stability influences circadian rhythms and recovery cycles. 3 foundational recommendations are issued to the public once the phenomenon is fully understood. First, maintain natural exposure to daylight. Solar energy remains essential for metabolic balance even under the shield. Second, adopt grounding routines. Regular movement, hydration, and contact with natural surfaces reinforce the body's resonance with Earth's field. Third, adjust daily rhythms to solar cycles. Sleep and recovery align more efficiently when synchronized with reduced magnetic noise. To complement the environmental shift, the Global Health Network promotes a unified solar stability strategy. Balanced nutrition rich in electrolytes, periodic aerobic activity to sustain oxygen flow, and mindfulness intervals synchronized to the quietest hours before sunrise and after sunset. The shield may protect, but the organism must adapt. Engineers describe the A-10s now as silent custodians of the new age, machines reborn from instruments of war into instruments of balance. Their missions proceed without broadcast or fanfare. Each launch marks another cycle of calibration, another confirmation that the invisible grid above continues to hold. In the months that follow, atmospheric clarity increases. Night skies reveal faint geometric arcs under long exposure imaging, a ghost imprint of the Atlas lattice. The system functions without interference, drawing no energy from Earth itself. It simply channels the constant solar wind, converting chaos into equilibrium. At mission archives, the final entry is recorded without commentary. Sequence concluded. Shield persistent. Planet stable. And in the silence that follows, a final observation remains, one not of fear or control, but of continuity. Humanity has learned to coexist with its own creation, to channel the forces that once threatened it. The A-10s rest in their shelters, titanium shells reflecting morning light. The pulse from 3i Atlas no longer repeats, but its effect endures, in cleaner air, steadier skies, and quieter minds. The defense of the planet has become its maintenance, the guardianship of its balance. Each breath easier, each sunrise slightly softer. The system holds,